Well, of course, after the Beeching report, we happened to have the by-election here in 1965, and the question of the rail closure was one of the key local elements in my campaign, because unfortunately my predecessor as MP had voted for the Beeching report, and I was very critical of that. So that and the new hospital and the development area status, these were key local issues in what was otherwise quite an important national campaign. So when I was elected, I was reasonably confident that the railway would not be closed. That was misplaced confidence, as it turned out. And after a while, when it was obvious that they were going ahead with the closure, I managed to get all the local authorities in the area, that was 3 county councils and 8 town councils, to club together and commission the report from John Hibbs, which recommended the retention of the branch line from Edinburgh to Hawick. Now that was a compromise, of course, but it was one that should have been seized on, and we wouldn't have had the vast expense that we have now in reinstating the line as far as Tweed Bank if that had been implemented. And the proposal there was to reduce the staffing on the station, to have unmanned stations, mainly a single line track from Edinburgh to Hawick. And unfortunately, that was never really pushed by the government. And I remember going to see the head of British Rail in Scotland at the time in Glasgow. And he came up with a sheet of paper with all the alleged losses on the Waverley line. He showed it to me. And included in that list was £25,000 share of the cost of upkeep of Waverley Station. And I said, but hang on a minute, if you close the line, you're not saving that £25,000, you're still paying for Waverley Station. He took a pencil and crossed it out. And I thought, if this is the casual way in which they're operating, it really is appalling. But there was no push behind the Hibbs report, unfortunately, which, in retrospect, was a great mistake. But, I mean, I wasn't alone in campaigning on this. The Earl Dalkeith, who was then the MP for Edinburgh North, Conservative MP for Edinburgh North, was fully supportive, living in the area, knowing the area, and Madge Elliott, of course. And the three of us operated together. But the stumbling block, I think, in retrospect, was probably the Secretary of State for Scotland, because if he had put his weight behind the branch line proposal, I think we could have at least tried it out for a few years, see if it worked. And in my view, it would have worked.
A lot of work in the tunnel. The main structural repair on the archway has been completed using sprayed concrete and also traditional techniques, so brickwork and stonemasonry repairs in small patches, and in large sections that you see behind us here where there's a structural defect in the old structure, and we've broken that out. We've put steel reinforcement in and sprayed concrete. There's also been grouting to secure the tunnel in place. Once that was complete, we had a big job to break out the original rock base here and to give us the space required to fit the double track slab in here. Several weeks worth of heavy work in here, chipping away at the stone, clearing the rubble out, and then laying this concrete foundation that you see here. Very different to the track that you see in other parts of the railway. There's no ballast here. The sleepers come with a steel reinforced cage. We set them in their exact positions, and then we pour a concrete base, and you can see it's got the geometry of the track to take in the curve. I think the most difficult challenge is maintaining the safety for our workers here. You can't have too many different activities going on at one time, so you go through the process of lowering the rock level throughout the tunnel. You then bring the next team in to lay the concrete blinding and then build it up slowly and progressively. It's why we've worked in the tunnel over the year, is to make sure that there are not too many activities going on at one time, and we do this in a slow and progressive manner and get the quality of work that's required. On both sides of the tunnel, they have the Gala Water, so we've got two wrought iron structures on either side, so the track's fixed at those points, and then it obviously curves around the geometry of the track to get a smooth passenger service. And this is all continuous track, so you don't have the same expansion joints that you would on a traditional track. Yes, last time we visited this site you couldn't have crossed the Gala Water. There's been a lot of work done in this area. The north abutment was in a very poor conditions. We've demolished the majority of that and replaced it with a concrete replacement. But we have reused the historic columns. There were three, one of them had collapsed. We've reused the two columns here, and we've got a blend of concrete and stone masonry repairs to the south abutment there. It's very, very like Bowshank's tunnel, where the Gala Water curls round the mound of rock and the railway cuts through in the tunnel. Either side there's a bridge on both sides. Both those bridges are now largely complete, and there's still a lot of work to do in the tunnel, so we can take you up and show you that. We have excavated the foundation, which is why it's a little bit wet and mucky today. And we've got the single track over both the river bridges here, and then it's single track in through Gala Shields from this point.
The Crucial Crew has been in existence for 20 years. It encourages children to take part in various scenarios which replicate potential real-life situations. It helps youngsters to understand the workings of the emergency services, and this year Safety on the Borders Railway was a vital addition, as PC Gary Dinwoodie from the British Transport Police explained.
The Borders area hasn't seen a railway for about 50 years, so it's vitally important to educate the youngsters in the primary schools and secondary schools, with the hope that they can pass the messages and the knowledge on to other people as well as the adults. Again, we're in a unique situation that the adults is maybe two generations who haven't seen a railway in the Borders area. So it's a really vital time to try and get the safety message out there. And we're finding every time we come back now, the kids know more and more, and the message is getting easier, but we need to keep it going.
Good.